Welcome to the UIAAA Connection podcast. Hometown Ticketing is proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the UIAAA Connection podcast and to provide schools nationwide with the best options for digital ticketing for their events. Visit their website at hometownticketing.com to learn how they can make digital ticketing possible and simple at your school. Thank you to Hometown Ticketing for their exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection podcast.
Welcome back to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch Hunter. Today, as our special guest, we have Skip Lowe, Certified Athletic Administrator, Director of Athletics at East High. Welcome to the podcast, Skip.
Thanks, Hutch. Appreciate it.
Why don't you begin by sharing with our listeners where you grew up, where you went to college, your first job, that type of a thing?
Well, I'm kind of a local guy. I've been in Salt Lake for most of my life. I grew up in Sandy. I thought I was going to go to Brighton. I actually went to Brighton for my sophomore year, but kind of grew up out that area and then moved downtown and went to East and have kind of been here ever since. So it's been a situation where this is kind of what I know, and I'm excited to be here and to still be here after as many years as I have been.
So where'd you go to university?
So again, we're only a stone's throw away from the U, and that's kind of where the grade starts, and that's actually where I've always wanted to be, and I've always been a Ute, and so red and white just kind of keeps on working for me, whether it's here at East or up at the U, and so I was really excited about that. And so I went up to the U and I did my undergraduate work in exercise and sports science with the psychosocial emphasis. And I also got a psychology degree. Didn't know that I would go into teaching and do those kinds of things, but as soon as I figured out that after I'd been coaching while I was doing all these, my schooling and whatnot, figured out that coaching and teaching are the same thing. That the part that I loved about coaching was the teaching part. And so then I found ways to be able to get into a teaching program at the University of Phoenix and was able to go through that program. And while I was still coaching and starting to do some of the things here at East, and then be able to transition smoothly into this position, I was really lucky. One of my coaches got a job up at the U right when I got my teaching certification. And so I was able to kind of slide right in, and it was a great transition, and I feel very fortunate.
So that would be Kerry Rupp then, I assume.
That's Coach Rupp, that's right. And yeah, you can call him whatever you want. To me, he's coach forever.
Sure. So that brings me back to a follow-up question then. I must have met you not realizing that I met you all those years ago when Judkins had his camp at East, because I assume you were at Juddy's camp. And of course, that was back when I used to work that camp.
Well, so. I think there were a couple of camps that you were at for sure, with whether it was the Judkins Brains, which turned into that the 3-star when Thurl Bailey got involved with
right.
It. And I did that a ton. I did that when it was at Churchill, and I did it when it was here, and I did it when it was at Skyline. I think, if I remember right, were you involved in an Adrian Danley camp at Murray one summer?
It was no, I did. The ones I did at Murray was when Thurl was involved, and then of course I remember the Brains. I was actually back in the 4J days, back when it was Jeff Jonas, long before your time. So boy, what a small world. Let me ask you another follow-up. Was it difficult for you having your first year at Brighton, being a high school kid, and then all of a sudden moving to a different high school? Was that easy? Was that tough?
There were some tough things about it. When I was growing up, I always wanted to be a Bengal, and I, from my house, when I was shooting out on my driveway and those kinds of things, I could see the Special Events Center from my house all the way downtown. That's now the Huntsman Center, and I always dreamed about wearing blue and orange and being up there in the state tournament and playing for Brighton. My parents got divorced, and so my mom, I moved with my mom downtown. Still made a commute for part of a year out to Brighton, but it was a really good situation that I was able to move into here. And again, Coach Rupp and Coach Kiko and some of those guys were so accepting, and I was really lucky to be able to get up to here. And it obviously was a direction, a life changer, something that's influenced the rest of my life.
So talk for a moment about your Little League days or your youth sport days, later elementary school, junior high. I'm sure you're probably one of those guys that played all three sports, I'm assuming.
So I did a lot of stuff when I was growing up. I tried a lot of things, and some I was better than others. I when I was younger, I played soccer, and there were a couple of summers that I even swam and dove for a few years. That didn't pan out quite as well as it did for maybe my siblings, but played a lot of baseball. Really liked baseball practices. I loved how much action you could get. I loved thinking about the game and about situations. So I love baseball practices. I played football for a couple of years when I was in kind of middle school age group. My parents wouldn't let me play before that, but I wanted to try it out. And then I found out that for a little skinny guy that doesn't like to hit people, that football wasn't a great option for me. I've always loved basketball from the time I was little, from before the Jazz were here and before there was such thing as junior Jazz, and playing in the YMCA leagues and just I was on the red team, and I just loved it. I loved it from the time I picked it up, and with basketball, it was something that it didn't matter if it was a real practicing on my own, doing workouts, watching it, thinking about it, playing games, just something that I always loved. And so that was where my heart really has always been. I grew up playing in as many leagues as I could, as many camps like we talked about earlier. There were some summers that I would go to 4 and 5 basketball camps around the valley, and those kind of things that I just really loved. And by the time when I then got into high school, basketball was, because it's more what I loved. I don't know if it was my best sport, but it's what I loved. I did try out for the baseball team at Brighton when I was a sophomore before I came up here my junior year. And that didn't work out. And that was one of the first times that I was kind of told that that things weren't going to work out. And it was hard, but I remember those kinds of things as a coach, and trying to work with kids and deal with kids in ways that they could try to maybe put some things into perspective during those tough times.
Well, let me ask you about, I know you've mentioned a few of them earlier, but let me ask you about the mentors in your life specifically, and the impact they had on you, and I'll let you share those.
For sure. And again, I've already touched on it. Certainly Coach Rupp and Coach Kiko have had huge amounts of influence on me in the things that I've done, and the things both athletically as an athlete. And then I was able to join that coaching staff basically right after I graduated. The next year I helped as an assistant on the freshman team. Was the first coaching job that I had before serving an LDS mission, and then came back and was lucky enough to be a part of that staff. And it was, every day was like a clinic, and there were the things that were important to basketball and important to coaching, and those were obvious, but they also made very obvious the things that were way more important than basketball, about being a good person, being a good man, being a good husband, and those are the things that have been even more impactful. But in all of the things that I do, both of those guys were head coaches. Both of them were assistant coaches. They helped each other out, which was great, and they've both been athletic directors. And so in all of my coaching and in my athletic director duties, there are multiple times daily that I think, what would Coach Kiko do in this situation, or what would Coach Rupp do? And those really help to guide some of my my decisions and some of my philosophies and some of the things that I do that way. So from a coaching standpoint, and they were just tremendously influential in my life. And certainly I think that there's a lot of people that would say this. My parents were the other biggest influences, and how grateful I am for both my parents and what they've done for me, and allowing me to do things and being able to expose me to different things. Just feels so lucky to have grown up in the situation that I have, and still get the support from all of them that I do.
That's excellent. Let's talk for a moment about your background. Obviously, you got into coaching. So then how was it, and how many years was it you were coaching, then you finally got into athletic administration?
So like I said earlier, I didn't think, I got into coaching and teaching, for that matter. I got into the educational system because of coaching, because I love to coach. And I knew that at some point I would like to be a head coach. And I think that I believe I coached under Coach Rupp for 7 years, another 4 years with Coach Gardner after Coach Rupp had moved up to the U. And then I was the head basketball coach for 12 years. And of those 12 years, the last 3 of them, I was also the athletic director. It was, I never thought about being an athletic director. It wasn't something that it wasn't even something that was in the realm of what I thought I might do. But when the position came open and our administration had posted or said that it was going to be opened, and is it something that I would like to do, I jumped on it. I talked to my wife, and we thought it was something that would be a new kind of a way to go. And I love doing both. I loved coaching and doing the athletic director position at the same time, which can be a lot, but it was something that I really loved. And I feel really fortunate, again, to be able to slide into some situations that have been really beneficial for me. It seems like that's happened multiple times in my life, for sure.
Well, let me ask you this. This is kind of off the record, kind of a different way. It wasn't in the question. I'm a Highland guy. I graduated back in '71, a generation clearly before you went to East. And so do we
have a drop button if I have to say some swears or something like that?
Well, exactly. Well, so my question is, because obviously it's been so long since I've been there. So you were the head coach for 12 years. So were those 12 years good to you? Was it more in favor of East? Was it more in favor of Highland? Was it split down the middle? I mean, you got to remember, Milton was the coach at East and Larry Maxwell was at Highland when I was there. And those are the names from way back. So how was it? And is that rivalry still healthy?
Those are some legends that you were just talking about, for sure, with Coach Maxwell and Coach Milne. When I first started, we had our struggles, for sure. We had really good kids and kids that worked really hard, and I was a new coach, and I'm sure there were some things that I could have done differently. But we struggled for a few years. Then kind of towards the middle and end of it, it got to be a lot more of a competitive rivalry, and it was really fun. I was able to coach against Coach West.
Keith, sure.
Yep, for sure. And that's where I started, and he was really good to me as well, and really got along really well with him. And then Coach Boyce was there after that, and had good relationships, good fun rivalry relationships that way. I love to hate Highland. I tell people that all the time. I say that, and it's true. I do love to hate them, but the people there, the relationships with the people that I have there, even I would go over on a Saturday morning and trade film or do whatever we were going to do, and the kids that we were just battling with and those kind of things the night before, they're good kids, and I really got along with so many of those people, and I've had really good relationships with Highland. But I love to hate Highland. I think it's a healthy thing to do.
Well, and that's, it's been over 50 years since I was there. So it's good to see that things haven't changed, and it's a good, healthy rivalry. So thanks for sharing that. Let me ask you this, Skip. You've been an AD for years now. How is the job different outside of COVID, which is the obvious answer? How is the job different than when you first got the job?
So I think we're just about done with my 7th year as the AD, and which is not like forever, but it has been a while, and things have changed. Every year I think that, okay, I'm going to get a little bit better at this, and I'm going to get a little bit better grasp on things, and it's going to get easier. And I hope that I'm more efficient with some things. I hope I'm better with some things, and the decision-making is good with some of the experiences that I've had, and being able to look back and think about some of the things that I liked that I did and some of the things that I didn't like. And I especially like trying to glean things from other athletic directors and people that I work with. But it is different. I think that there's a lot more demand on, at least the feeling that I get is that there's more demand on what the position is. And I think that's throughout education. I think that there's a lot of things that teachers and coaches and administrators and athletic directors are asked to do that maybe weren't in previously. I know that there were a lot of great people, and there still are a lot of great ADs that are doing stuff with one prep period a day or limited time and those kind of things. And I'm fortunate that I have a little bit more time to do that. But it does feel like that there are always, whether it's things coming from the state or things coming from our district. And obviously you mentioned the COVID stuff that just threw things into a whole tailspin. I mean, never in a million years would I think that I would swab as many noses and be responsible to send out quarantine letters and those kind of things as we did. So there's really a lot, but there's also a lot of great people to help and a lot of great resources that we have available to us now that we didn't have even the 7 years ago when I started.
Skip, what's your biggest failure and what did you learn from it?
I was thinking about this a little bit, and I think that the biggest failure that I would say in general is when I maybe let fear get the better of me and maybe wasn't brave enough to step forward and try something new or work on something that I wasn't as comfortable with. And I remember 30 years ago sitting as a basketball player here at East as a junior, and we were playing in a game against an extremely talented player. And he was killing us in the first half. And so we get down to halftime and coaches are getting into us, challenging us some. And they kept saying, is anybody going to guard him? Is there anybody that can stay in front of him? And I knew that what I was supposed to do was to say, Coach, I got him. I'll take him. I got him. And in my brain, I knew that I didn't. I knew I didn't have the athleticism and the skills to be able to do it. But that's a regret that I have, that I wasn't more forward, that I wasn't more bold in stepping up to try to take a challenge like that. And I remember that from 30 years ago. It's something that I think about often and try not to allow those kind of situations to happen again. I think that we all know that the more that we compete, the more that we coach, the more that we learn different things, you're going to win sometimes and you're going to lose sometimes. But that not giving yourself an option to win or to be successful in whatever endeavor that you're doing, I think is that's something that I don't want to have those regrets. I don't want that to be part of who I am.
That's some great insights. Thank you for sharing that. Let's go in a different direction for a moment. I want to talk about the Certified Athletic Administrator exam and the process that it takes to get there. And of course, you have completed that. But I want you to talk to, because there's a lot of our audience that haven't done that yet. Speak about what it does take to become a CAA, the preparation and the importance of becoming certified.
Sure. When I first became an athletic director, there were a number of people in our district that had gone through the process and had done it. It was something that seemed like it was an important thing to our district. They talked to me about it, and my first reaction was, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know that that's such a big deal to me. I don't really care if I have 3 letters that I can put on my email signature line, or any of those kinds of things. I just didn't know that the impact that going through the process might be." So it took me a year or two to kind of jump into things. I had gone to our state conference and knew that there were classes going on, but that wasn't something that I had a ton of interest in. But as I started to take some of those classes, start to look at what it took to be a CAA, it made sense, and it makes sense to do those things. The information, the content that you learn in those classes is extremely valuable. I think personally, even more than that, the checklist of some of the things that you have to do to earn points to be able to be ready to sit for the exam really put me in a position where I was volunteering for helping at state events or region events and trying to get involved with other things. And I think that those experiences have been really valuable for me to both build relationships, to see how different people do things in different ways. And so some of those kind of things I think were just as, if not more important than the coursework, which again is very informative and can be very helpful in day-to-day work and in philosophies, and especially the scary law classes and some of those kinds of things. So I really am glad that I did it. I was a little, I don't know if stubborn is the right word at first, but I didn't really care about it a whole lot. But after I got started, then I thought it was really important to go through with it and to do it. And I'm really glad that I have.
Well said. Let's talk for a moment about your journey with the UIAAA, because I'm assuming when you got the job that you may have never heard of the state association or the NIAAA for that matter. So take us through, now that you've had the job for 7 years, how you first began to be involved. Obviously now you're a member of the ADAC. And so I'll turn some time over to you and share some of those thoughts.
Well, again, I think that it was kind of that journey where when I first started, it was, okay, that's fine. When I was a basketball coach, I was a member of the Coaches Association. And so it made some sense to be a member of the association. Everybody said it was in our district, it's kind of an expectation, or at least that it's very readily available to be able to go down to conferences and stuff like that. So I went to conferences and kind of started to get involved a little bit that way, and started gradually to learn how important this group of people are. This with all of the ADs and the administrators and all of the board and the people that are that are currently working, that have been in past positions and those type of things. It's a great organization to be a part of, because it's people that are going through and have gone through the same things that I'm dealing with. And I think that that's very valuable. This last year I was able to, I don't know how I ended up on ADEC, but I've done that for this year. And that's been a huge benefit in a growing opportunity for me as well, to be with a member and an athletic director from each region on just about a monthly basis, to be able to do that. And again, to meet some more people, to hear some more ideas, and to be able to take a role in trying to disseminate some of that information back out to the athletic directors in our region. And so it really has gone from, I'm an athletic director, I need to know my baseline job, into, how can I be like some of the people that are members of the UIAAA? How can I work towards doing some of the great things that so many of these people are doing?
So let me follow up and ask you, for those who may not be as involved as you, and there are some in Utah, continue on with that thought of the importance of the state association, how we're tied in with the national association, and what a difference it's made for you.
Well, I think that it is amazing how many people are involved in it in Utah. I would certainly encourage anybody that's not to reach out and talk to people that are, and find out what some of those benefits are. I know that every spring when we go down to that conference, again, there's great information, and I take stuff back from every session and every class and everything that we do. But I think some of the most important things for me, I think that when you guys put the agendas together, you schedule in little networking times. Networking is a great word for an agenda, but hanging out with, getting to know the people that are doing these things it's just invaluable. There are so many things with this job that can be hard, that can be frustrating. So having people that to be able to talk to you about these things, or when you see them at games, when they come to your place, you go to their place, when problems come up, to be able to have those relationships with other athletic directors has been a huge benefit for me. And so I think being part of this group has really helped, and it's something that as long as I'm in this position, I will certainly be a part of.
That's if I can follow up again, you've basically described the UIAAA family, and I know that people that are not in the UIAAA or not as involved don't quite understand that. But I think one of the most positive thing is you can call any region in Utah, any school in Utah. You know the AD, they know you can talk to them. You know some people nationally and do the same type of thing. And obviously when you first became the AD, you didn't know what the UIAAA family was. Obviously, right. Now you do. And so those are some great comments. So
well, and I also just to kind of tag onto that as well, it is remarkable to me. I still kind of sometimes I like to have that little underdog that, we're just Utah, we're just the little guys, and we have to kind of fight and scrap for the things that we get. The number of people from Utah that are members of the UIAAA that are in major positions, in major national positions, is astounding to me. And so that just, again, solidifies how important it is to be a part of this group, because it's a group of great men and women that are doing great things, not only here in our state, but nationally as well.
Well, thanks for sharing that. That's so true. And I'm just going to leave it at that because you said it better than I could. Let me ask you this, Skip. What's one common myth about being an athletic administrator that you would like to debunk?
Well, I think there's a couple of things, but maybe the one that I hear all the time when people find out that I'm an athletic director, they say, "Oh, that's great. So you just go to high school games." Well, yeah, we kind of go to high school games, but there's a few other things that we do as well. And so I think one of the myths is that this is just an easy job. I think this is a very difficult job. But I think it's an extremely important job. I think that high school athletics and activities are so important to the whole high school experience. And so being able to be a part of that and to try to help to facilitate in some of those kind of things is really important. But it's not just an easy job that you just show up and go to games at, and then you get all the East swag you want and all those kind of things. There's a lot more that goes into it. And so there's some hard things, but the good things and the positive things certainly outweigh them.
Very well said. What's the favorite part of your job, Skip?
Well, going to games. I think that, again, being a part of athletics has been something that's been very important to me for my entire life. And I've done it in a lot of different ways. I've done it as a participant, as a competitor. I've done it as a coach. Now to be able to do it as an athletic administrator, and to see a lot of those things happening, and to be able to see great things happen for young people. Sometimes this is the hook for people to be in school and to stay in school and to do well, and to see what our coaches are able to do with young people, and to see what young people are able to do with each other, and to help us as adults to figure out the way that things need to be and should be done. Just to be around sports and to be around competition and to be around people that really enjoy what they're doing has got to be the best thing.
Let me finish with a couple of questions, Skip. The first one being, you're a veteran athletic administrator now. If you had two suggestions for a brand new AD that they would have to follow these suggestions in order to be successful, what would those two suggestions be?
I think one of the things that I would suggest is that they really examine, why they're doing the job, and because it's a job, but it's a lifestyle as well. I am, and I know that it's different in different school districts and in different areas and whatnot. I am a teacher. If I'm certified or classified as a teacher, I'm on a teaching contract. But I don't show up at 7:30 and leave at 3:00. And after graduation, I don't wait until it's time to come back to school meetings to be able to do stuff. And I think that if that would be problematic for somebody, then this would be a really hard job. So I think one suggestion would be, not to worry about punching a clock, doing a 9 to 5 kind of a thing, but just being able to understand that the job is to be able to help coaches, to help your athletic department, to help different programs, to help athletes, to help your administration, to be able to do whatever needs to be done for as long as it needs to be done. And I think that a lot of people come into this position from a coaching position and understand that there are a lot more hours than you're getting paid for, a lot more hours than you're getting credit for. But I think that that's important to understand, that you do, in my opinion, to do it well, you got to jump in, you got to immerse yourself in the whole thing. So that would be one. And then the other one, kind of going back to the UIAAA family or membership and those kind of things, is I think that asking for help is really, really important. When you have questions, when you have things that you don't understand, to know that there are people that are doing similar things. And when I was first started as a coach, I wanted to be the one that had all the answers and that knew everything. After I had been a head coach for a while, the best thing that ever happened to me was that Coach Charlie Whiting, came and was an assistant coach for me for a couple of years. And to be able to have him on my staff, to be able to help me and to teach me, even though I was the one that was supposed to be in charge, was invaluable. And so I think that being able to, sometimes it might take a little bit of humility, or you might have to kind of show that you don't know everything. That's okay. Everybody doesn't have to know everything, but there are people out there that know it and will help you. And I think that asking for help and being available to be a resource to others would be another piece of advice.
Right. And I just want to follow up with something you said, because I believe this so much, and I think it's important that we say it again, is for some of these kids, this is the only reason they stay in school. It's because to be a member of the team, to be able to participate, because some of their home lives are so horrible, or they're such haven't had successes with student, that if we didn't have these programs for them, we would lose a lot of kids. So I just wanted to thank you for that answer and reiterate that. So let's finish up with this one, Skip. What question should I have asked you that I failed to ask you?
I don't know. I think you asked great questions. I think that you've got this whole UIAAA connections thing down to a T. I think that maybe talking about it, when you're talking to other athletic directors, maybe to talk about things that are unique to their situation. For example, here at East, we have a very diverse population. And I think that that's a real strength of our school and a real benefit to the things that we do here. But there are also some things that go along with that make this job, add some extra challenges to it. I think that knowing that, or talking about what different people do at different schools, schools that are like ours, schools that are not like ours, is something that has been helpful for me. But that might also be helpful for some other people. I really think that everybody would be able to say that we have a unique school situation. Whatever school that you're teaching at, there are unique challenges and there are unique opportunities that come from those things. And so I think that might be a question that could be talked about a little bit with some of the uniqueness of where you live, where you're at, where you work, what your situation is.
Well, thank you for throwing that in there. And I think that's a little bit of bonus information we got. So thank you again, Skip. That wraps it up for another edition of the UIAAA Connection. Once again, our guest today has been Skip Lowe, Certified Athletic Administrator and the Director of Athletics at East High. Thanks for being on the podcast, Skip.
You betcha, Hutch. Thanks for having me.
For our listeners, we hope you tune in again next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection.